When the vehicle is locked and you approach it with the key, it senses the key when you get to a certain point, and it turns on these really nice approach lights. It says Highlander on the ground. It also has the interior lights are now on, and really nice touch. I really like having approach lights, and they extend out quite a ways. But they don't last very long. But it does give you the ability to see what's on the ground really far from the vehicle. So let's go ahead and hit the unlock button. When we do that, we have the same approach lights there on the side. We also have tail lights on, and then little lights here in the front. Not the complete headlights, but it does give you some level of safety, so other vehicles can see that there's a pedestrian around the vehicle, or there's a vehicle there. And also you can navigate the ground getting to the vehicle with this approach light. So really liking this part. I mean, of course, there could be a little bit more lighting here, but man, that is nice to see. It does have a DRL off position on the headlight switch, which turns off all the exterior lights, which is nice. But let's go ahead and turn on the parking lights. And with the parking lights, we have these amber side markers and these relatively dim LEDs here in the front. They're just so people can see you. They're not like super dim, but they are dim, so they're not mistaken as headlights, basically. So that way other vehicles can see that there's a vehicle there and all that stuff. And there's that side marker in amber. Tail lights are red, and they wrap around to the side of the vehicle and have a really strong side marker there. That's LED strip. And the tail lights are nice and bright, very bright, red in color, and very impressive LEDs. The tag lights are also now illuminated, and they kind of illuminate the ground a little bit. But yeah, really impressive tail lights here. Turn signal is amber. It's a standard bulb here in the front, and it's pretty bright. Pretty bright. Standard amber halogen bulb. There's also a turn signal indicator here on the side mirror. It's amber as well. Not super bright, but is seen from the front, side, and back. It's actually brighter here in the back. And then here's the tail light turn signal. It's amber in color, and it is a standard bulb. So it kind of separates itself from the rest of it in the color. And it's pretty bright as well. Let's go ahead and turn on the low beams. There's the high beams, low beams. We'll see all this stuff going down the road, but the low beams are LED projector bulbs. So you can see it's just in that projector lens, focusing the light and giving you a clear cutoff. There's also a fog light, which is kind of in a mid position, not so much a low position, and it's in a reflector housing. So it's actually a LED and a reflector housing for the fog light. So the cutoff is about just a little bit under 3 feet, I guess, just by my estimation, off the ground right here anyway. When we turn on the high beams, basically what it does is it refocuses that projector. So what they call is it's a bifunction LED headlight system. So it looks basically the same thing, except for the fog lights are now off for the high beams. But we don't have to dip down very far to have the light shining in my face, because these are the high beams. So they're focused at a higher position, intended to project down the road further. The cargo area is, I would say, severely lacking, because I have the seat down, but you can see on this side where the seat is up, it's completely dark in there. I mean, completely pitch black. And the only light that's supposed to be apparently for the cargo area is this one under here, which really is more for the third row than the cargo area. So you can see it pretty much doesn't have a cargo light. This is all dark over here. There's a Power inverter this dark. Here on the right side, nothing. Make sure I'm not overlooking any lights, because I'm kind of surprised that that's all there. That's a halogen bulb as well, so it's not that bright. And the only reason why we're getting any light at all really is because I have that seat down. So you can see this seat up, completely dark. So very poor lighting in the cargo area. Third row seat, it's that same light that's supposed to be for the cargo in the third row apparently. And it's halfway decent. It's better than nothing. It's not fantastic. The second row has a single light as well, but it seems like it's a little bit brighter. It's actually two side by side. But it does a little bit better here. Now we are dealing with light colored seats. That helps out. The floorboard, it's a little bit illuminated. This area here is looking pretty good because the lights are directly above it. You have the climate control buttons here that are backlit, which is cool. But then there's two USB charge ports and a power inverter here that's completely dark. The inside of the back door, absolutely nothing except for this little finder light so you can see where the power window switch is. You got a pocket there that's dark, here that's dark, the handle here is dark, no puddle lights, no nothing. The inside of the driver's door, it does have a puddle light. It is a halogen bulb, not very bright, but it does have one, which illuminates the ground right here when you open the door so you can see what you're stepping in, which is, I'm glad to see that. Now there's some backlit buttons here for these controls, here and here, but the presets for the seats are not illuminated. There's this neat little sill plate badge light, I guess. Kind of illuminates right in here. It's looking pretty nice. That's pretty neat. Now the front lights are provided by these two here in the center, similar to the second row, which illuminates this area here. And you're going to need those lights because there's some serious issues with the center console area that you're really actually going to need a flashlight in some of these places on this vehicle. Before it gets too much darker, I'm going to start here with the interior because it's such a dark black interior, and some of the areas it's hard to see. So I'm going to actually increase the brightness now. So we're going to blast it up a little bit so we can see some of this stuff. Now, when you're sitting in the driver's seat, there's backlit buttons everywhere, which is nice. And it's relatively simple. You can understand the different buttons there. You can see them easily, daytime or nighttime. Same thing with the display here. Everything has the black background, the white lettering. I like those blue dials, little needles on the dials. Let me adjust the brightness down so you can see them. Too much brightness eliminates the color for some reason. But yeah, it's looking good. Over here, backlit buttons. There's one down there for the fuel door, here on the door as well. Here's the screen. And I'll show you the different views here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in reverse so you can see the camera. It's nice and bright, and you can see pretty good. There's your climate control backlit buttons. Now right in here, there's actually these little shelf pockets, and they have the most dim light. Here, this might help. You can see it does have these lights in there. It's kind of hard to tell because we're dealing with black interior pockets. So there's this pocket that goes all the way across here. There's also one over here as well that has a light in it, and it's very dim. But that little tiny bit of light does help out in a pocket like that. It's very helpful. Just have a little tiny bit of light here and there in dark areas. And we'll see that this principle could be applied in other areas which they don't apply. But yeah, having those illuminated. Let me increase the brightness so hopefully you can see in there. Yeah, there we go. Everything's blown out. It doesn't look like that in real life. It's not that bright. But just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, those compartments there. Alright, so the cup holders here are dark. There's two USB charge ports that are dark, that are illuminated around this pocket that's completely dark. So that's an issue there. Let me turn on one of the interior lights so I can just see what I'm talking about. There's this whole compartment here that's just completely dark that you can't see in. There's cup holders that are dark. The glove compartment surprisingly has a light, but it's very dim. But it does have one. And I'm going to keep the interior light on for a second. You can see these backlit buttons here because this whole compartment is dark. So we open this up. First, it's like an obstacle course because first of all, let's say you have your cell phone charger. That's the cell phone chargers. You have your cell phone there. So you open this up. You got to move the cell phone. You got to move this up. Now this is in your way. And then next is a tray. You got to get that out of your way. But let's say you have stuff in it. You know, you got to make sure you don't spill it while you're getting this out to get to the bottom. You know, and you can see in there a little bit into the bottom of this compartment a little bit, but it's kind of far down there. This kind of gets in your way, but you see without the light, there is the only light that's coming down, which helps out a lot. It's kind of like these compartments here, where a tiny little bit of light helps. I wish there was a light in the compartment itself though. Because as you can see, the way this light that's coming from up here shines is directly above it. So as you look in there, it kind of casts a shadow. So if it had a light in there, it would actually help. But having that light kind of helps a little bit, but it's a little bit too little and it's not positioned correctly. So it's not really intended to illuminate this compartment. It's intended to have just illumination in this area, but a little bit of it goes in there. So that compartment's dark. Missed opportunity there, in my opinion. That's a big deal to me, having dark compartments. That one here in front of me, cup holders could have some illumination. The door pockets could have illumination. But yeah, that's... The floorboard should have a little tiny something, you know. Rearview mirror is actually a rearview camera as well, and that works pretty good at night. And all these buttons here are backlit, which is nice. And I'm glad that they backlight the button to turn on the interior lights. Like some vehicles don't do that. The visors have a pretty bright light there when you open up the mirror. The pluses on the interior is these little lights in those compartments. Everything mostly being backlit, which is really good. So I think they did a good job with the colors as well. That blue really looks nice. But the negatives I would say the compartment there and the center compartment and the floorboard. You know, I mean, if you really want to be picky, then you know definitely something in the door besides just the buttons would be nice. Floorboard. You know, a little bit extra here and there, and it doesn't have to be bright. Like these are a perfect example of lights that are not going to blind you. You know, you can barely tell they're there unless there's something to reflect off of them. It doesn't take much light to illuminate a dark compartment. It's just having something there besides nothing, because otherwise you're just stuck relying on using a flashlight. You know, so you know. That definitely can be improved in this vehicle. So there's a clear cutoff for the low beams. You can see it there against these bushes. And it's pretty amazing what they could do with refocusing a single lens. So there's the cutoff there. And there's the high beams. There's the low beams. I have the automatic high beams turned on right now, and so we'll see how well they work. Some vehicles have issues with the automatic high beams or flashing other cars and stuff. So right now, you can see there's a little bit of a dip on the oncoming traffic lane. It's not a huge deal though. It's not a problem for me. And you can see it's relatively, on the low beams, it's relatively evenly lit on the road, considering we only have two. Well, we do have the fog lights as well. So we have those two projectors doing a pretty good job so far. Let's go ahead and turn the fog lights off. Yeah. So you can see the fog lights are mostly just closer to the vehicle. But still, even without the fog lights, it's still looking pretty good. Go ahead and turn those back on. Give you a nice view closer to the vehicle. And here on the sides as well. Okay, so right in here, I'll wait for the automatic high beams to turn on. Right in here is kind of dark, and we can see pretty decent. I think I'm more impressed with the low beams so far than the high beams. But no, that's fine. That's good. Yeah, we can see pretty good. They do tend to fade out a little bit. The brightness it's just the actual implementation and the aim and everything is good on the high beams. It's just the brightness is just not quite there, and it's probably because we're trying to take that same light, refocus it to a broader area and a more distant area, so there's just not quite as much light in general to make it bright enough. But yeah, it's good. I mean, it's really good. Just the brightness could be a little bit higher, but I can see pretty good. I mean, I can see the pattern is really good. Like it's evenly lit on the road. It goes off to the sides of the road. I can see the trees in the distance. It's just a little bit, could be a little bit brighter. You know, it's one of those things. Because when the low beams, the fog lights turn on, it kind of gives you the appearance of a brighter light, because it is actually more light. Okay, so that car just flashed me. So it might be the way that the road, the cutoff was probably a little bit high for them as we're going up that hill. Yeah, I think these are good headlights. I think they could, you know, potentially in the future add some brighter lights, or maybe have a separate high beam light, so that way it's not trying to use all the light through one lens. But yeah, hopefully the camera's picking it up, the pattern and everything, especially the distance. It actually does a pretty decent job of going a far distance, even though it's not that bright. It's kind of weird.